After almost 60 years of strong bipartisan support, Congress has cut all federal funding for public media, stripping away a critical pillar of support for local stations like ours. At Vermont Public, we'll lose at least $2 million this year. If all our sustaining members increase their gift by $7 per month, we'll close that gap for good. Increase your gift today and help close the gap at vermontpublic.org/update.
From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mary Engish. It's Thursday, September 18th, and here are today's headlines. As wealthy baby boomers begin to die, Vermont's estate tax is taking on new significance. Vermont took in about $55 million in estate tax revenues last year. That's more than double previous annual records. Much of Vermont's wealth is concentrated in older households, so estate tax revenues will continue to rise over the next 20 years. That is according to Brattleboro Representative Emily Kornheiser. She's the Democratic chair of a key tax committee.
This is going to be, without a doubt, without any changes on our part, without any policy decisions, an increasing part of both Vermont's budget and, Vermonters' experiences.
Vermont is one of 12 states with a state-level estate tax. The state assesses a 16% assessment on all estates worth more than $5 million. The Fort Ticonderoga ferry has halted its operations for the season early. That's because of a mechanical issue and extremely low water levels. The ferry boat service connects Shoreham, Vermont to Ticonderoga, New York. Ferry operators posted on social media on Tuesday that anyone with unused commuter and round-trip tickets can still use them next year. Months of hot, dry weather and little rain has caused the entire state to be in moderate to severe drought conditions. Lake Champlain's water level in Burlington on Wednesday measured about 93.2 feet. The all-time record low is 92.4 feet, and that was in 1908. Human-caused climate change is making extreme rain and drought events more common in Vermont. Recently, Rutland City Police created a safe exchange zone in front of its precinct. It's a place where people can meet up to buy and sell their items from sites like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Longtime resident James Hodgson suggested this idea to the police department.
And I read an article where this lady made a safe space in her yard for people to be able to do exchanges in such ways. Well, I got the idea, why not have the police do it?
Police described the spot as being well lit and under constant video surveillance. Rutland City Police Sergeant Eric Morgano says officers won't be involved in any of the exchanges. He told Vermont Public that so far the department has received positive feedback from residents about the safe zone. Killington town manager Dave Atherton passed away this week. The Rutland Herald reports that he died Monday from a medical complication. Atherton was hired as town manager in March. He previously served as town manager in Pittsford and for many years in Brandon. His family is asking for privacy at this time. Killington Select Board will meet soon and take next steps to ensure the town offices continue to function. And have you heard of collective gardens? They're different from community gardens in that these shared spaces grow lots of food with an extra dose of teamwork. Vermont Public's Zoe McDonald reports.
It's a quiet Friday morning at the Intervale Center in Burlington, and all eyes are on a basket of squash hanging from a scale.
Oh my God. That's 19 and a half pounds right there. I want to take a picture of this.
The small group of gardeners at the Seed Song Collective Garden had just harvested the squash, plus dozens of tomatoes, wax beans, onions, carrots, cucumbers, and much more.
I really want this funky one. I'm just going to go for it. Barbara, you already got a patty pan and
I got a patty
lemon.
pan and a lemon.
You get any carrots?
Yeah.
In collective gardening, a group of people works the same plot together and shares the harvest equally. There are about 20 people who tend this collective garden, which the Vermont Garden Network facilitates along with 2 other collective gardens in Burlington. Angela de Betancourt is the garden program manager at Vermont Garden Network.
So you're doing everything together. You're planting together, you're harvesting together, you're managing the space together, you're existing within the place as a group versus existing in the plot of land as an individual or as a family.
There are a number of gardens operating with this type of model across the Northeast and Quebec. The people who help run them say that, along with low barrier access to fresh food and the land to grow it on, the relationships that members cultivate are part of what makes collective gardening special. Kristen Perry is the urban agriculture manager at the Depot Food Center in Montreal, which runs 5 collective gardens in the city.
What the gardeners mostly report back in their testimonials is the friendships they make and the mental health aspect are both really important for them.
The organizers of these gardens say the model isn't perfect for everyone. Collectives come with expectations around work hours, and they usually have set plans around what crops they grow and how and where they should be planted. But for the gardeners, these collaborative spaces do attract the sense of togetherness, and pounds of fresh food are well worth the work. For Vermont Public, I'm Zoe McDonald.
Coming up, historic amounts of money have flowed into Vermont for housing since 2020, all while Vermont's housing crisis was reaching its peak. But what did that money actually build? Carly Berlin dug into the numbers and shares what she found. That's after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from SRH Law, believing that values and mission still matter. When you need good counsel for your values-based work, whether it's securing our energy future, building affordable and sustainable communities, or advancing a values-led economy, they're here to help you make a difference. SRHlaw.com. Making a difference is our practice.
Massive, historic, once in a generation. That's how Vermont leaders describe the amounts of money for housing that flowed into the state since 2020. Much of this money was federal pandemic aid, and it came as Vermont's housing crisis was reaching a boiling point.
We need to put this money to work for working families. They're depending on us. And with some creativity and these historic resources, we can make this happen.
That's Governor Phil Scott talking in 2022. But what did this money actually build, after all? Reporter Carly Berlin pieced it together in a collaboration with VT Digger, and she joined host Jen Jarecki to break it all down.
Carly, will you start off by telling us, how did you begin investigating this?
I'd been hearing housing officials and elected leaders tout this extraordinary amount of money that got put into building housing. But I first wanted to know exactly how much we as a state spent, and I couldn't find a comprehensive answer. So I started gathering data from the 3 major entities who oversee public money for housing development in Vermont. Then VT Digger's intrepid data reporter Aaron Patenko helped me pore over so many spreadsheets cleaning up this data. And then we added up all the money Vermont directed towards affordable housing between 2020 and 2024 from, federal COVID aid packages and surpluses in the state budget, plus regular funding streams like tax credits. The grand total was nearly $790 million.
$790 million. Wow, that is an enormous amount of money. Okay, so what did $790 million buy?
This helped create about 4,400 homes. Now, there is some nuance there. We wanted to look at new homes added to the housing stock as much as possible. About 2,200 of these homes were new, and another 1,100 or so were categorized as rehabs, which is actually a pretty broad term in the way these agencies use it. Sometimes it means, for instance, turning an old school into apartments. Sometimes it means preserving an existing apartment complex as subsidized housing going forward. And then we looked at another new initiative created during this time focused on fixing up vacant rentals, which produced another 1,000 homes. Pretty much all of these homes we looked at are considered affordable, which means they have some kind of income restriction on them or a cap on the rent or sale price.
Okay, so 4,400 sounds like a lot of homes. I mean, did we do it, Carly? Is the housing crisis solved?
If you look at this one way, this funding sent Vermont's affordable housing builders into hyperdrive. That's how Housing Commissioner Alex Farrell puts it.
What we here in Vermont did was truly push our system into sort of a turbo speed.
He says all of this money helped shore up the lower income end of the housing market during this really vulnerable moment. But when you look at this another way, the cost of construction shot up during this exact same time period because of inflation, supply chain issues, labor constraints, along with high interest rates. So Vermont ended up getting a lot less bang for its buck than it would have in a pre-pandemic economy. And a lot of these homes still aren't open because of just how long it takes to build larger scale affordable housing projects. And when you zoom out from just affordable housing, all the projections say we still are not building enough housing overall to meet demand.
Carly, you looked at a couple of examples of projects to understand what sorts of housing the state was prioritizing. Will you walk us through one of those?
On the large end of the scale, this funding helped build entirely new neighborhoods. I went to one of these developments when it was under construction. It was one of the largest recipients of this windfall. It's tucked off of Route 7 in Shelburne. The nonprofit developer Champlain Housing Trust was putting the finishing touches on a new apartment building and a series of townhouses, all of which will be sold and leased at subsidized rates in perpetuity. Michael Monti, the Trust CEO, took in the scene.
When you see people beginning to own their own homes and are just so happy when they move in, or when people move into their rental housing and finally have stable housing, big difference.
A big new development like this is not cheap, and there are all kinds of requirements on public money for a project like this that can end up driving up cost. The total price tag here is about $55 million, which means, on average, each of the homes in this 94-unit neighborhood cost about $600,000 to build.
Okay, well, this is just one approach to building affordable housing in the state, right? Using a lot of public money to build these big projects that will stay affordable permanently. Carly, you mentioned another program geared toward vacant rentals earlier. What has that achieved?
So this is the total opposite end of the spectrum. The state started up a new initiative called the Vermont Housing Improvement Program, which is geared at building accessory dwelling units in homeowners' backyards, rehabbing apartments that had fallen into disrepair, and getting them back into the market. The state has helped create over 1,000 rentals in this program, with the average grant being just over $38,000. State officials say the exciting thing here is that the program delivers a lot of homes at a very low cost and more quickly than building a new apartment complex from scratch.
Too soon to say that sounds like a real bargain for the state?
You know, it is, but on the flip side, these homes only need to stay affordable for a pretty short period of time, 5 or 10 years. So those rules, they're going to start expiring this fall for some homes, and we're going to have to see if landlords decide to start raising rents. For now, Farrell, the housing commissioner, says the state thinks many of these landlords will keep renting at below market rates and keep their current tenants. I had one landlord tell me that's his plan. David Began got a grant to fix up an abandoned duplex in Canaan in 2020, and a family of 4 moved in.
We got good tenants, and we're happy with what we're doing. I don't do that Airbnb thing. I'm more to take care of local people.
Okay, Carly, so the big push of funding is now over. The state has a tighter budget, and federal support for housing and homelessness is threatened under the Trump administration. So what is the outlook for affordable housing in Vermont now?
Some advocates have been pushing for new taxes on higher earners to fund affordable housing going forward. This has not gone very far in the legislature. Policymakers have been focusing a lot of their efforts on trying to tamp down costs for all kinds of housing. But right now, homelessness in Vermont is still at record levels. Market rents are still out of reach for many Vermonters. And some advocates for affordable housing worry that without more money coming in, this COVID-era boost in building affordable housing, it'll just be a blip.
That was Report for America Corps member Carly Berlin. Carly covers housing and infrastructure for VT Digger and Vermont Public. You can read her full story on housing spending at vermontpublic.org. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Peter Hirschfeld and Nathaniel Wilson. Adia Golston produced today's episode with Stephanie Colombini editing. And our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mary Engish, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.